Welcome to Life, Lessons, and Laughter with your host, Glenn Ambrose.
Hey there. Where are what month are we in? Almost December. I think we're right at the end of November. Well, happy holidays. So today, I put up a post, I don't know, last week or something, and it was taken from Robert Frost. The poem is "The Road Not Taken." So, I mean, if you haven't read the poem, read it. It's not too long. But really, what I wanted to focus on is what I perceive to be the point of the poem, which is really right at the end. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So that's a quote that I put up, and that's what I want to focus on. Because these things that resonate with us is the reason that they resonate with us, and I think that, quite honestly, that's something that we need to look into more. I mean, I'm always saying we need to go a little deeper, think a little deeper, and what do I mean by that? What I mean is asking yourself questions. Why does it resonate? What does it mean to me? Like, what within me is this quote or this message triggering? Why do I resonate with it? And if you understand that, if you ask yourself that question and try to figure that out, what you're going to do is you're going to start to understand yourself better, and you're going to be able to discern between what, like, egoic identification and your true self identification. Because really, when something resonates with you, basically what it does is it captures your attention, and you go, oh yeah, like you recognize that there's a certain level of, we'll use the word truth, and I'll use that term loosely, and I'll explain why. So there's something within us that says, yes, I agree with that, or yes, that's the truth. And I use the term truth loosely because it could be an egoic truth, or it could be a deep truth. And that is what we need to discern, because this is this is how we run around unconsciously, right? This is how we stay indoctrinated into society's perspectives and way of thinking, which there's all kinds of problems in society, right? So why do we want to think like society thinks? So we have a bunch of problems in our life too, because I mean, that's really what it is. It's the macrocosm is the same as the microcosm. Whatever is going on within us is going on outside of us. Whatever is going on outside of us is going on within us, unless we consciously choose for it to be different. So when things are resonating, ask yourself why. And if you can look and you go, oh, okay, like, be like, oh, what's something that people resonate with very often, like my, I guess this is my go-to when I'm thinking about this type of stuff, on social media or just out in life. Like, if somebody plays the victim, as a general rule, what society does is run in to support them. Okay. Why? Because we think it's the right thing to do, because we think we're going to be a good person if we support them. So if somebody says, yeah, I was in a relationship and, it was all the other person's fault. And then all their friends go, yes, yes, it was their fault. Oh my God, you're such a wonderful person. You deserve better. You know, and everybody, so people resonate with that. Why does it resonate with you? Well, because it's stroking your ego. That's why. It like, I mean, if you're, take this. I was in a relationship. That's a two-person thing. And it got messed up and it's all the other person's fault. Oh, okay. Is that true? No, it's simply not true. And if you believe it to be true, then you're never going to learn anything and you're never going to grow and you're never going to become a better version of yourself because it's their fault. So there's no growth for you. You're not looking for growth. You're not looking to expand. You're just looking to blame. So your growth will be stagnated because of that. So it's simply not true on a deep truth level. Now, can it be true on more of an egoic surface level? Yeah, it can be more true on an egoic surface level. I mean, it doesn't. Well, all you're doing is feeding your ego, And I'm not saying that it can't be 90-10. Maybe it's 90%. Depending on a relationship, maybe it's 90% the other person and 10% you. Maybe it's 75-25. Maybe it's 50-50. Maybe it's more your fault than it is their fault. Who knows? Like, I mean, that's for you to go in and figure out. That's your work, and you don't really necessarily need to figure out that percentage. That's not what I meant. That's for you to figure out. You just need to, all you need to know is that it's partially your fault. It is. If you're in a relationship with somebody and somebody's treating you like crap, that's partially your fault. And if it's, I'm assuming that they're treating you like crap because, it's easier to blame. But if they're treating you like crap, then you're allowing it. Okay. So that's part of it. So your allowing is part of the problem. You see, so there is something for you to learn. If you were in a relationship for a substantial amount of time, maybe you were you dismissing red flags? These are the questions. This is why ask what is resonating with you. If somebody's like, don't you hate it when you give everything of yourself and then when it's your time to receive, then there's nobody there for you. That's another one that people resonate with a lot. Oh yes, yeah, it's so horrible. It's like, okay, well, what part of you is resonating with that statement? Well, like I give, and then when it's my turn to receive, these people don't give back to me. Okay, so when you were giving, then you were expecting something in return. Well, no, not really. See, that's on the surface. No, I was just giving unconditionally. Well, then why are you upset that they're not giving back to you now? Well, they just should. They just should. Don't rationalize. Just be honest with yourself. If you're giving to people and then it's your turn to receive and you don't receive, that means you were giving conditionally. You were giving as long as you received when it was your turn. Now you're not receiving and it's upsetting you. It's okay. I mean, it's like we all do it to some degree, but you just got to be conscious. Stop rationalizing the behavior. So this is what I mean. Figure out why you're identified with the statement that you're identifying with. Okay. Is it an egoic identification? Like when you ask yourself these questions and you actually come to the truth, it's fairly easy to determine whether it's stroking your ego or whether it's truth, especially if you're looking to do work on yourself. looking to be a better version of yourself, it gets easier and easier, especially if you say it out loud, even if you're alone, So find out why it resonates with you. Now, most of the stuff that I share, I do that with. It's pretty easy now. Like most of the stuff, it's like ego, 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 ego. Oh, there's some deep truth, and I like to share the stuff that I have deep truth with. Now, that's not to say that something that I resonate with in deep truth, somebody else can't resonate with in an egoic way. That happens all the time as well. So this is why it's not about the statement. It's about what the statement means to you. And if you go in and ask yourself these questions, it's a meme, man. It's one sentence. It's not going to take you 13 years. Just go inside of yourself and ask yourself these questions and learn to be honest with yourself. That's such a tool. Like, I got sober. Well, I woke up spiritually through sobriety. And for me, the way step one was phrased was learning to be honest with yourself. So, like, that's what I did. And I learned to be honest with myself in lots of different ways by practicing this type of questioning. So this is how I recommend. You can do that with anything. I didn't know I was going to talk about that, but I was. So I did. So let's take that and bring it into the road not taken. The road not taken resonated with me so deeply because it's basically been a story of my life. It's been a story of my life. And I don't mean that in like an egoic, oh, I'm special way. It's just a fact. I mean, quite honestly, while I was unconscious, it was one of the biggest problems and caused the most suffering that I didn't take the road that everybody else was taking. It caused immense suffering to myself and to everyone around me because I wasn't doing it in a healthy way because I was unconscious of it. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, like, but I did it. That to me is kind of cool. Like, now after being awake for 20 years and living a different way, and it's like such a full circle moment in my life right now because like I was drunk for 20 years, just really going in one direction for 20 years that was negative. And then now it's been 20 years that I've been sober and living spiritually. So it's like the balance is there. So I've been sober as long as I was drunk, which is cool. And it's just, I can see all the ways that I was actually kind of doing the right thing even when I was drinking. I just was doing it the wrong way and I was unconscious of it and I didn't understand it. But boy, my soul is freaking strong. That's what I think is so cool is like I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, like I know I was stumbling and tripping and falling and banging my head and flailing and suffering and struggling, but I was always going in the right direction for me. And that is so cool. That's cool that there's something that was driving me. And personally, I believe it was my higher self, my soul, my maybe it was my source, maybe it was God. To me, that's where the lines get blurred. You see, I have my conception of God and I believe in God, but I hold it very loosely. I don't walk on to this, well, God is this and this is this, and it's very stringent. And, oh, this is my higher self. This is everything that my higher self consists of. And then separately, this is my soul. And this is and the difference between those two is this. And then I have God and my source, and God is connected to my higher self because it comes from the higher. Like, I don't care, quite honestly. I don't care, nor do I think that my brain is actually at the level where I can fully comprehend it. So I hold on to this stuff loosely, these concepts loosely, and sometimes they overlap, and I let them. I don't care. It because it doesn't matter. I don't feel like I have to know intellectually a bunch of stuff. I feel conceptually. This is why sometimes it's hard using a particular word to describe something. Some divine intelligence that's smarter than me, that can be like an over-encompassing thing that can include God or my higher self or my soul or a compilation of all of them, or there we go. So divine intelligence was driving me in ways that I had no idea, because I was unconscious and I was stumbling. But like what's so interesting to me is when I reflect back, it's I didn't I don't know how much people will be able to understand this. When I was a kid, I wanted to be good so bad. Like, oh my God, I wanted to be good. Like I could tell that my family was good, good people. And I could tell that my friends were good. And basically, I don't know, most people around me were really good people. And I grew up in a wonderful time in a little town in Massachusetts, and I think it was a great town with tons of great people in it, and I was very fortunate enough to grow up there. And I still believe that a lot of the people that I know that are really down to earth good people, I know from Gardner, Massachusetts. That being said, um, when I was young, and I'm sure there's, good people all around the world. I guess now, that would, maybe that's an example that I wasn't even aware of, right? I just said that about Gardner, Massachusetts, and in my personal experience growing up, but I feel that to be the same in the macrocosm now and in the whole world. Like I meet people from all over the world living here in the Dominican Republic. It's funny, like the United States is like this melting pot. People say it's like I've met way more people with way different cultures from so many different places here. Um, so it's I believe that all people are good. Really, they all have good within us. I mean, of course, some dropped into bad habits or bad ways of doing things, but people are good as a general rule. In a smaller community, especially back then when things were tighter and there was actually a sense of community to some degree, um, yeah, it was probably heightened, because of that. But whatever. So I wanted to be part of that. I could feel I was good. I knew I wasn't bad, and um I liked people. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be good. I didn't want to get in trouble all the time. And I tried so freaking hard, man. I used to try so hard and put so much pressure on myself to not get sent to the office. And I literally couldn't do it. I could not sit still. I could not keep my mouth shut. I could not focus. And, and I would get into trouble. So, but I had this yearning to be a good person, to be good. And I tried really, really, really hard. And it was very upsetting when like I was basically in a depression of sorts when I gave up, when I was like around 14 or something. By seventh grade, I realized that like I was getting really good grades up until seventh grade, all A's and B's, and it was easy to me. And most people liked me. And um for the most part, I think even a fair amount of my teachers did. Um, I remember teachers kind of saying things to me like like they could tell I was a good kid, even though I was getting into trouble. So there was still that aspect of it. But like when I consciously chose to be bad, and it was because it was just a failure, my sense of failure that I couldn't live up to what everybody else wanted me to live up to, and I wasn't good enough. That was it, it just it wears on you, and it wears on you day after day, just hearing your name in a negative context. And just finally I was just like, what if I was bad? Like, what if I just stopped putting all this pressure on myself to be good and just did whatever I wanted? Like, maybe because I could tell me beating me up was the biggest problem. So I was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing, you know? I'll try it. So I tried it and I had fun and my life didn't change that much. I was punished all the time anyway. So why not? Right. And as I was having fun, I was taking all this pressure that I was putting on myself off. That's the worst. It's the pressure that you put on yourself that's the worst. So I was taking that pressure that I put off on myself off. Now I was just saying, okay, I'm going to be bad. Well, that's where I went wrong. That's where, my unconsciousness and my lack of awareness as a spiritual being, I wasn't able to bridge that gap yet. I thought it was either be good or be bad. It's not. Like, you can follow your own path and still be a good person. You don't have to cause controversy everywhere you go, right? Um, so, but this was my inner. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. And I don't mean just like I couldn't be good because of ADHD and bouncing around and all that stuff, but I couldn't fight myself anymore. I just had to let myself just go and do things that most people weren't doing. I had to take the road that most people did not take. I had to. I didn't have a choice. I was, like, I mean, I probably, honestly, if I didn't do what I did, I think I probably would have committed suicide at a very young age. I mean, that's how much suffering was going on. And I'm sensitive, so I feel it a lot. Like, people like, oh, I don't understand why people commit suicide. I completely understand. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I've been there, man. I get it. I understand the thinking. I understand the hopelessness that people feel when they're in that position. Now, I also understand that there's always a reason to have hope, because I'm not in that right now. But, like, I've been in those shoes. I've been suicidal. I've attempted suicide. I get it. I understand when you're sitting in that space, it doesn't feel like that there's any hope. There is, but it just doesn't feel like that at that moment, because you're so locked into that vibration of hopelessness that anything that doesn't match that vibration doesn't make sense. Because you're vibrating at hopelessness. So somebody brings in hope. It's like, no, it doesn't match. It literally doesn't even make sense at that particular moment. It's just so easy to flick away and go, no, that couldn't happen. Why? Just because it doesn't match my vibration. That's all. So, but I had this push, this yearning, this drive to basically kind of be authentic, to be me, to because I couldn't handle the self-punishment. I couldn't handle me beating myself up for another year, that I wasn't good enough and I didn't fit in, and there must be something wrong with me, because 90% of the other kids can sit still and behave in class and I can't. So that means 90% of the people are good and normal and Glenn is bad. And there's something inherently wrong with me that I can't fix. That screws with your mind when you're a kid. So and it's like, yes, it's fortunate that I can have clarity going back to these times and remember pivotal moments of my life, what I was thinking and stuff. But, that's semi-conscious, I guess. Um, in hindsight, I can look back and I can understand it. I didn't fully understand it then. So there was this unconscious drive. This is why it feels like it comes from divine intelligence or a higher self or something. It was like I was put here on a path to clear up some past karma, or to learn some specific lessons, or whatever you want to call it. And something knew that, even though I didn't, on a conscious level, and it wouldn't allow me to take other routes, because there are other routes for me to take. And I just was like, I was driven by this unconscious push to do the general things, not the specific things, the general things that I did. Like, for example, I had to be honest with myself to the best of my ability. I had to be authentic, and I had to stand up against um, authority. Like, those were things that like came in with me. Uh, I didn't do these things because I wanted to, like now that I do it in a healthier way, people like, oh my God, that's so awesome that's like, it's not my choice. Like, I think we imply choice too much. And this is how we create separation, which is an egoic thing. We imply people making conscious choices. Oh, uh, we 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 have a high divorce rate because people don't take getting married seriously. I disagree. I think that probably a very high percentage of people that get married, very high, think that it's actually forever, or at least think that it's going to work out. I don't think most people, of course, there are a small percentage that go, oh, I'll get married. If it doesn't work, I'll get divorced. Of course, there's a small percentage of people, but most people, I don't know personally, I don't know anybody that's done that. Or, I mean, one of my friends will probably reach out and be like, I did that. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. Everybody that I know that's gotten married thought they were getting married because they're in love and they were going to stay with this person forever. I mean, maybe it was a crappy decision. There were even times when I was sitting on the outside going, hey, who knows? Sometimes we learn to grow together, but as a general rule, this probably isn't going to last long. That's that's kind of what I see. And most of the time it didn't. Occasionally it did, and I was wrong. But you know, implying choice means that we see everything perfectly clearly, and we're choosing to screw things up, which is just not the case. It's not how people function. It's not reality. So we have to bring in this. If we're talking about dealing with the reality on earth, we have to deal with the reality that most people are unconscious to a certain level, right? And including me. So we have to bring that piece in. Otherwise, we're not looking at things realistically. And at a young age, I was more unconscious to what I was doing, but there was a drive. Like I said, I had to stand up against authority. I remember in fourth grade having a discussion with my principal at the time. Fourth grade, having a conversation with my principal on an intellectual level, because a teacher started swearing at me. And then I swore back at her, and he was like, oh, well, do you think it's right for a child to swear at a teacher? And he came at me intellectually, logically, instead of like, you're bad. So I was open to a conversation. So I said, no, it's not right. And I shouldn't have done it. But do you think it's right for a teacher to swear at a child? It's like, what? Well, that's how it started. She swore at me first. And I got upset and I swore back. So I'll own the responsibility on my end. But what about her? This is the type of thing this is how I came in, man. Like, I was doing this stuff in fourth grade. Like, and I've never I just don't have this thing about authority. Like, to me, they're just another person. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the Pope. I don't care if you are the President of the United States. I don't care if you're my favorite football player, or I don't care if you're my favorite spiritual teacher. I don't care who you are. If, like, you're not above me. Like, nobody is above me. They're just not. They're just a human being. I'm a human being. I'm not above them either, but they're not above me. I just don't have that. Like, I don't have whatever the hell that is. And quite honestly, most people do have it because I see it. I just don't have the thing that says if somebody is in a position of power, then they have control over you. I didn't come into this lifetime with that. And I didn't always consciously know how to handle it appropriately, but I was always driven to not bow down to them. And, when I was unconscious, I did it in a lot of negative ways. I mean, so like I would completely, like, I didn't take into consideration like dynamics. Like, I'll explain it this way. Like when I was a kid, I didn't there's certain things that a teacher should be able to tell you to do. Why? Just because they're the teacher and you're the student, and that's the dynamic. They have to tell you what to do. Like, that's literally their job, right? So there were and I understood that to some degree, but there were times when I just demanded complete respect. And if I didn't get it, I wasn't given it, but I also didn't give it first a lot of times when I was younger because I didn't understand what I was doing. Now I understand you have to give what you want to receive. So I try to give first. Now I'm still, as soon as somebody crosses that line of disrespect and I haven't done anything, the hair on my back still stands up and I go, whoa, not this guy. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy that you treat like crap. It just doesn't happen. It's not. And I'd like that, I like that. I beat myself up for this because for so long, because I didn't understand myself, and I didn't understand why I did things so strict in like in this area. And I like that I'm not that guy. I'm like that as soon as that, like, I can feel the energy. As soon as that energy crosses and you start coming at me, all bets off. Whatever needs to happen for you giving me crap to end, whatever needs to happen for that to occur is going to happen. Period. I don't care what it is, but you treating me like crap will end. It's going to. Now, I might have to shut up. I might have to walk away. I might tell you to go F yourself. I might choose the wrong way. I'm not saying that I always choose the right way, but what I do know is that it's not going to happen. It's just not. And I like that about myself, and I'll still continue to grow and to try to learn to handle some situations better, because if I get a little overwhelmed or I really care about it's much easier. But if I'm in a bad mood or I really care about somebody, it can be harder to manage my emotions, so that's where my work is. Not being the guy that allows people to crap on them. I like that about me. It feels good to know that about me, but it's always been like that. It was just on an unconscious level. This is what I mean. When I was younger, I was being pushed in that direction and I didn't even know it. Like, my behavior was in alignment with that. Like I said, a lot of times it was misguided and I didn't know how to do it in a healthy way all the time. but it was going in that direction. This lifetime, I wasn't going to be told what to do. Like, I wasn't going to be ruled over, and that's a major. I actually did some past life regressions, and this came up in more than one, which makes sense, I think, for a lot of us, not just me, but a lot of people. Think of where we're coming from. For 100,000 years, basically, you did what you were told, and there was real consequences if you didn't. Caste systems and slavery and all this stuff. So in past lives, like, you had to do what you were told, otherwise you were going to be beaten until you did, or killed, or both, or your family tortured, or like, I mean, so you didn't, in a lot of situations in past societies, and of course some of that stuff still goes on today, but it's less and less in the world. But that was worldwide before, you know so like, coming into, we're supposed to be evolving, and we're supposed to be breaking past cycles. So there were, and I'm not the only one. I think this was a big aspect of the hippie movement in the 60s. Major problem with authority, major problem with anything that had long-standing structure, organized religion, organized government, organized big business, like all that stuff. The hippies went again, shook all that stuff to its core, and it's never been the same. And I think that's what started cracking the structure. You didn't ask, even when I was a kid, it was just starting. Like, you didn't. It wasn't like, why am I being raised a Catholic? I don't believe in this. They're like, shut up and go to church. Why are you being raised? Because you're Catholic. That's why. Like, you didn't question a lot of things, and they didn't even have answers. I mean, if you did question it, they just told you not to question it. Why do I have to go to school? Well, because you do. Go to school because I said so. That type of stuff. It was just like, weird. I think probably my parents' generation probably started it, but it still wasn't the cultural norm even when I was a kid. We need to question everything. That's how we're going to change things and make them better. And I see a lot of society too much latched on to, like, oh, these kids today suck because they want to make really good money, and be able to live a good life in their 20s. They need to work for that. Whoa, wait a minute. That resonates with you for a reason, for some reason, right? Let's look at why. Why does it resonate with you that kids shouldn't be able to get into the workforce and have just a really high paying job with good vacation? Well, because I didn't have it. Right. Okay. So you didn't have it. So you don't think they should have it? What if you could snap your fingers and actually go back in time and you could have that? What if you were in your 20s and you could make good money and you could own your own home without struggling, and you could go on vacations and travel the world and experience things, and then you started that in your 20s and you lived your whole life like that through your 60s, through your 70s, your working years. So for 50 years while you were working, you were actually experiencing life and enjoying it and being able to experience things and live your best life and be happy. Oh, that sounds nice. Yeah, it would be nice. So why are you saying they shouldn't have it? Oh, it's going to wreck our economy. we we have CEOs making, hundreds of millions of dollars a year. That money can come from there and it can go down. So it's not a problem with wrecking the economy. Oh, well, the CEOs won't sacrifice their pay. They're going to pass it on to the consumer. Okay, well, then we need to change the way things are. Like, why is everybody suffering what we're trying to achieve? And we go, no, that's the structure. It's because we're too locked onto it. We're too conditioned. We need to open our mind and think broader. No, it's not either or. It's not the 1% controls everybody and survives, and then we're left with 20% of the money, And we just have to figure out how we suffer the least. And working 50, 60 hours a week for 40 years and then dropping dead of a heart attack, that's just life and you have to deal with it. Why is that okay? Like, why aren't we going and saying, no, like, don't pass that down to the consumer? Why? Because we're not quite there yet, but we need to be leaning in that direction. Fix the problem. Don't yell at the kids who are trying to fix the problem. Slow down and look at it. Like, they're trying to create a life that's actually better and happier. Good. Let's help them achieve that. We're supposed to be the smart ones. We're older. We're supposed to be leading the way. And instead of going, hey, you kids got some good ideas, let's help bring that into reality in a healthy way, we go, you're an idiot. You're supposed to suffer and struggle for 40 years. And if you think of anything else, you're unrealistic. That's the way life is. Oh, people, think a little deeper. Okay. Don't cow down to these people that are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year and say that's just the way it is. Yeah, it's because we accept it. That's why it's the way it is. We don't have to accept it. So this is the road less taken. And I guess it says the road not taken. In my brain, I don't know, I've always heard the road less taken, in my head when it comes to this poem. And that's how I resonate with it. Because people do, it's not a big difference, but a lot of, other people have taken this path. And now in human history, it's so much more important to take that path that is less taken. Because again, look at society. Society is not in a good place. Why? Because most of society is not thinking in the right way. Hence what I just finished saying. Most of society says CEOs make hundreds of millions and we have to suffer. And that's just how it is. And if you try something against that, then you're a self-righteous moron of a younger generation. That's what most people think. And most people are suffering. So don't think like that. Don't do that. Like, I swear I've said it many times. If I start seeing myself thinking or believing or behaving in a way that most people do, that's my red flag. That's when I go, whoa, wait a minute, Glenn, are you dropping into unconsciousness? Because most people aren't happy. Most people are struggling. That society is a reflection of its people. There are problems. We sit in our little ivory towers that are starting to fall apart now, and it's going to get worse over the next 5 years. Yeah, definitely the next 5 years, maybe 10. I don't know how long. I don't know how long, because the speed is picking up in the spiritual shift going on. So I don't know, but it's going to be getting ugly. Because why is it going to get ugly? Because we're not changing fast enough. That's why. So it's going to get ugly because it's obvious now. Like most people understand that the government is failing them, and they don't care about them, and that the pharmaceutical companies and big business run everything, and that that they're just stealing money. I mean, I just found out last week that the United States has failed the audit. Like, the government, you can't make this stuff up. They've failed their government audit for the last 6 years in a row. The United States has not been able to tell its people whose money it is, where they're spending their money for 6 straight years. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're like, we are stealing so much of your money. And we used to hide it and say, oh, we put it here and we put it here. It's like, we're stealing so much, it's kind of hard to even fake it anymore. So we're just like, I can't tell you that a pencil costs $3 billion. I mean, that's just absurd. You swallowed it when I said a pencil costs $100,000. But even you are going to know if I put a pencil costs 10 billion that I'm lying. So I'm not even going to lie anymore. I'm just going to say, numbers didn't come together. Where's the audit? Oh, we don't have it. Like, what are they going to do? They're not going to do anything. They just sit around, right? We've come so far in this direction that we can't blame, I didn't know. We can't blame ignorance. It's like it's more and more people are seeing it, and it's obvious, and it's happening. And we also can't pretend that we don't know ways to transcend this stuff, because we have examples throughout human history. Just look at large social change. What has caused it? You can look at Gandhi's movement. You can look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s movement. You can look at the women's movement. What actually changed? And if you look close enough, what you see is it's love. It's not fighting against. It's coming together with the oppressors and having conversation while passively resisting. No, I'm not going to allow you to do that. No, I'm not going to participate in what you're saying. No, I won't do that. That type of stuff. Non-compliance along with dialogue instead of fighting. That is what has caused social change. And you can even look at Panama, which just finished up a couple days ago, I believe. Bear with me if I don't have all the exact facts here, but I'm just still going to use that as an example. This is my understanding that Panama got very upset because they were because of Panama Canal, and its location and kind of selling its geographical location, all this stuff, which is a huge benefit. And that went so deeply years ago when that happened, that when the Panamanian government sold this huge contract to a Canadian company doing a copper mine, that they were just like, finally it triggered everything in them from that past experience. So they were able to come together as a country, the people. So they stood up and they started protesting, and I think it went on for like about a month or something. And the government tried bribing them, going, hey, like we'll raise your retirement 75%. Everybody's retirement across the board. If you're already getting it, if you're about to, everybody gets 75% more. Just let us keep this contract. People are like, no, we're not selling our natural resources in this way and endangering everything else geologically. So because you guys want to make money, we're not doing it. And, finally it was ruled unconstitutional a few days ago. We're at the end of November 2023, if you're listening to this at a later date. So the people stood up, came together and said no. And the government responded because they have to. There's no sense in trying to run a country that you can't control. That's why Gandhi's movement worked. They couldn't control the Indian people. If you can't control them, there's no sense in trying to govern them. So they will back down. So, we have examples of in the past and the present, how we can do something about it. But we have to take the road not taken. We need to break away from the way humanity has been going for the last 100,000 years. If you look at most people talk about society and the breakdown of society, they use the past, right? And with good reason. So if we look at the past, I mean, yes, we can see some different ways of changing things that don't include fighting, that include a love-based energy that gives results. Okay. So we can learn from history. But if we look at the rest of history that didn't work and all these civilizations falling, we can see it's the same thing. The government creates problems and then they dangle the solution. And then everybody dives for the solution and they have control over you. So, and there's other dynamics. But the point is As long as there is power that is left unchecked, it will be ruled by greed. And when greed only knows one thing, and that's more. So it will just keep taking and taking and taking until it kills itself. And that's what's happening with it in our society now. It's been happening for 100,000 years. It's happened in all the other little civilizations. It's happening. It's happened endlessly. Okay. It's just now it's happening globally. All the things that happened in the little civilizations before, when they fell apart and then either got overtaken by somebody else or moved to and inhabited a different area of land, those days are over. Technology has brought the world into one unit. So now we are one unit and there is no land to go to. So basically what we have is a global problem. So all the stuff that's been happening for 100,000 years is coming to its pinnacle. It's coming to its peak. All the greed is feeding it, and all the money and the power is going up and up and up. And eventually when, so much gets there that the people down at the bottom rebel against it, then it changes. And that's where we are again. But so let's be conscious of what we're creating when we're rebelling, what energy we're rebelling in. You can rebel out of an energy of love, because rebelling against an energy of anger is kind of like fighting against. Screw you! You can't do this to me. That's not what we need. I mean, sometimes we can use some of that to propel us into taking action, but that's not the energy that we ultimately need. What we need is passive resistance. We need to understand that they are not in power of us. It's never been that way. Once the people have really rebelled against the power, the people have always won. Always. Once they finally drew a line in the sand, they finally won. So we will win too. It's just we have to do it out of love this time, because it's global. We're not going to overthrow our government and or move off to another continent. Like, we have to do it here. We have to do it where we are, because it's a global shift this time. We have to create a new way of being, and we're doing that. And there's a certain aspect of rebellion out of love that we can use. But we have to break out of this conditioned way of looking at things and thinking, and in society, and really take the path less traveled. I thought I was going to be talking about some of the projects I have going on now, and I didn't. It's more of a global thing, which is good. So yeah, it's, question yourself, question why things resonate with you, understand yourself better, understand what changes and why, question everything, understand why change is effective. And if you see, like, if you look at history and go, oh no, fighting always changes everything. Okay, really? So what, so you have a civilization, it's kind of peaked to all the power at the top, and then some other people come in and they fight them, and then they overtake them, and then the same thing happens. It's the same thing. Like, this is why we need to change out of love, because if we just try to go in, people are so self-righteous. They think that they can fight for peace. You can't. You can't come in and overthrow a government violently and then put your people in and then think it's going to be different. People have been, look at history, learn from history. People have been doing that for 100,000 years. It hasn't worked yet. It hasn't worked. Every time somebody overthrows a government through force, what happens is their people just turn into greedy bastards, because the system hasn't changed. It's the system that's off. It's not love-based. It just boils down to energy, man. It's either good or it's bad. Like, if you build a foundation on negative energy, like fighting and greed and power, it is going to fall apart. It's going to kill itself off, because all it knows is more. So it's just going to keep getting worse, and it could take 10 years, it could take 150 years, it could take 10,000 years, but it's going to happen. It's going to fail. This is why we need to build in love. Build in love, a foundation of love, passive resistance, self-worthiness. We deserve to have a government of the people, for the people. And we're not going to settle for anything less. We're just not. That's love. That's self-love. That's worthiness. You do that, out of that energy, then we can create a different system. But it has to be, energy is pure. It's just it's either good or it's bad. It's not 50-50. It's either positive or negative. Yin and yang. This is the world we live in. So look within, try to understand yourself. Look for the road less traveled, because that is where we need to go, because the road most traveled has caused all these problems. And it's really, this is the road less traveled, is where your independence and your creativity can flow out of you and really help this world. And that's what we're looking for. So that's going to do it. Thank you for watching or listening. Peace. I will talk with you soon. Take care.